So I like to begin with a thought experiment. I won't target you because I know when we pinch egos, people turn off lens and people go off right. Imagine there is a person who smokes. Alright? Now, if I'm a smoker, I have two things. My behavior, I'm smoking. But recently I read an article that says that smoking cigarettes causes cancer. Now, as a smoker, what do you think that person would do? A. Change the behavior, cease smoking. Or B. Change the belief that research is okay, my uncles have survived, then I can also. Anyone? Anything? A, B, or third C option?
B.
B?
C.
C. What C is that?
C is like...
Uncles have survived.
Yeah, uncles have survived.
Yeah, so that's option B. Option C is like if you have any other third option that's available to your head.
Option C, I had a very interesting conversation in college. The guy just didn't care. He said that it's enjoyable for me. I don't care if I live short.
Again, that's like a belief thing. Like it doesn't really matter to me.
Option C would be like the person gets more stressed and starts having more cigarettes.
Then again, it's coming to the behavior. Perhaps. So I think that the red house, is targeting that the option shall be B. We will change the belief and shall continue smoking because I think that smoking is the behavior we have learned. Right. So namaste everyone. I am Manya Jaisinghani. I am a psychologist. I have completed my master's degree from Delhi University last year. And beyond that, I am working on the social impact sector. My area of expertise stands to be in skill development and happen to address the cause of air pollution from the lens of how psychology can give us certain answers. Now, I'll tie it back to the very question, smoking. Why is it that we are not ready to change the behavior? Any answers you can have at the top of your head, anyone can think? Or maybe people who are live can also type down with us. Why is that I'm not able to leave smoking even if it's causing me cancer?
Addictive.
It fills the void.
It fills the void because of the mental stress and all.
Yeah.
Okay.
An emotional void.
Emotional void, yes.
Addictive.
It's addictive. Yeah. Okay. It's addictive, it fills the void, and it's hard to basically shed this habit. Now I take a step back. Where did this habit begin of smoking? Is it that some addiction is only limited to cigarettes? And to fill the void, do I need to go back to cigarettes only? There might be someone who must have taught me perhaps, or perhaps I must have read it somewhere, or seen it in my environment, that someone is smoking to fill the void, someone is getting addicted to it, and someone is maybe surviving even after smoking. Right? And that is where the things come up. The habit formation. How do we form habits per se? We learn it. We are born like a fresh clay into the hands of like our parents, the society, the family, the education, and we are shifted and made into who we are over the time. And habits are particularly very hard to shed across. We shed the skin easily because it's not seen, but habits are very hard to go by because they are the muscle memory. They are feeded here, and also in the muscle. We start using mobile phones even without conscious cognizance. Raise your hand if you have, like in the past, right? Everyone does. It's because the muscle memory, mind is telling me that it's addictive behavior. You need to stop, Manya. But again, the fingers have the life of their own. Why? Because years of conditioning, years of socialization that have inculcated me into that habit. Now consider the habit of if I'm born into a household where my parents, where my distant relatives don't maybe smoke in my immediate environment, but I see them going to the hideous covers and smoking and then coming back. It's okay, it's validated at the family level. When I grow up, I see the cool factor. I need to smoke in order to be included in that coterie of my friends, or even go to these chai sutta bars which are there next to every corporate house. To be part of the conversations perhaps. What else can you do? And then thirdly, social status. The status that comes in. The cigarettes, the very media. Every Netflix movie starts with a cigarette blowing off. It's casual discussion which start with it. So kind of normalization beyond the discourse ki chalta hai, bhali niche se aa jati hai. There's an advisory that comes with it, but it's usually in very small letters on white, which are written that dhumrapan karna ek aapke janleva ho sakta hai. Why should I give it a care, man? I've been living, my family has been living, so why should I change the habit? Right? Now, let's turn the situation and come to the problem of air pollution. Same is the problems with air pollution. how can we change the very habit of polluting the planet when it has been a part of my ecosystem, my living, my behavior, of when I, instead of walking for 15 minutes, take a convenient 2 minutes ride? How can I change by, can I just throw off my specs? I'm wearing like lens today, but can I just throw off my specs? Because that plastic is causing me pollution. Can you discard your watches which are also having that plastic component? Can you just not, can we switch off this AC perhaps, because this is like an air incubated room where we're having a discussion on air pollution? Are we ready for that? Perhaps no. No? Because it's ingrained into our very being, the way we live, the very air we breathe. It has been the part of the womb that we have been coming out of. And that is the very problem which I think that we need to address, of how we can make a habitual change. And that is where this tussle of behavior versus belief was put forward by a theorist. We in psychology are very well aware, and maybe people beyond psychology might also be aware of Leon Festinger. You can read further about him, you can take a note and read about his theory of cognitive dissonance, the theory is called. Like, if a habit and a belief are in dissonance, then what we do? We cannot stay in the state of dissonance. It's perhaps very uncomfortable to me, right? If I'm smoking and thinking that cancer bhi ho jayega, then if I'm even saying that I'm cognitively not caring about it, but still I'm kind of reading newspaper reports, or not selectively reading the ones which say, or even selectively noting the things which are promoting my belief system only, right? So what we do? We either shun the belief or change the behavior, because we can't stay in the state of inconsistency perhaps. So at this very level, to cause that kind of momentum change, and that I will be coming to what madness really means, is to cause the very start talking about and raising this issue, so that this inconsistency bar shift towards the habit side, right? So how can we do that? How can we make this side heavier and start implementing a behavioral change? Even when the smokers leave, they need to have a parallel community in place. We need a person who is also kind of trying to change. My training in psychology is quite different from the clinical realm. I come from the side of wherein we were taught about socio-cultural systems, and critical psychology being our foray and the lens with which we analyze issues. What do I mean by that? Let's take example of depression, the classical case when we talk about psychology. With due respect to hormonal and biochemical things and seasonal affective things that causes depression, a large chunk of causes of depression lie in our society. Maybe faulty family systems, maybe faulty societal structures, maybe the way we were brought up, maybe the problem of loneliness which is caused by the new city structures. So in my school of thought, in my lens, which my perspective tilts towards, is how can we change this larger discourse so that society can facilitate this behavioral change within you. And hence, the next set of talk, where I am going to talk about the solutions perhaps and what this madness is about, are going to talk about how we can cause a larger societal level discourse change, the ecosystem change, the womb change, and the contextual side of things which we can modify perhaps to give incentive to this new behavior which is environmentally conscious and which limits kind of air pollution. Alright. So let's start. I ask another question on the solution end. Who are you? Can I have a few sentences? When I ask you, who are you? And the very first interview question, what do you answer? Any one sentence, each one of you can give.
Your name.
Yeah. I am Manya. That's the first sentence. What next?
What you do.
What you do? I'm a psychologist. Okay. Anything else?
Where are you from?
Where I'm from? I'm from Delhi. I'm Manya. I'm a psychologist. I'm from Delhi. It's all about I. The very idea of myself is I am Manya, I am this, I am that. Now go back to your childhood. When we talk about this, we were talking about write your own self-introduction. We started, I am Manya, I am based out of Delhi, my parents are doing this, and these are my hobbies. It never really talks about the environment. I study about environment in my 3rd and the 4th grade. I am Manya, this is water, this is a river, this is used for transport, the tree is used for paper making, the air is used for breathing, this is used for that. Environment is used as a verb, and I am a noun which controls the environment. Right? So I am the master, and the environment is my kind of territory where I can exploit for my benefit. right? So the very idea is that human beings are the king. We own the planet. I am this and this is for like our use. मेरी जागीर है ये, right? So that is the very point we need to start thinking. Who are you? I happen to be very blessed that in my curriculum at MA Psychology in Delhi University, we were studying this very beautiful school called Indian Psychology, which very targets the idea and the conceptualization of how you demarcate the self. The self is not this body. Even as we are breathing a rented air from the trees around us. The air we give out is taken up by the trees again. I happen to have a small experiment, like initial Excel dip activity. If we have time for that, we can initiate at this very moment. So all of you just close your eyes. We'll do it right away. So it's a very beautiful concept I read in the book Intertidal by Yuval Nevis, and he talks about tree meditation. Now just think that you are in a garden. Envision any garden or a forest space. There are trees around you. There is greenery. Now focus on your breath. As you inhale, just try to think that this is a gift which has been given to you by Mother Nature. Feel the very cells of your body absorbing this gift of nature. It's not something outside of you, it's like very interconnected ecosystem that we are breathing. And as you are breathing out, just think that you're giving back to the society only as an interconnected one. You may open your eyes. I know it must have been a very small dip into a parallel world which you must have envisioned, but it just for like a microsecond connected you with maybe the nature you walk in. When we have the headphones on, we are running in the garden, we never really experience that connect. And that is where we need to question. Who are you? The very idea is that we are one. And the very inculcation of this self and targeting this question of who are you, I think the Western culture has bombarded us with many things to define us. And I can easily send across you articles of talking about the concept of empty self. कि हम अंदर से खाली हैं, but we try to define ourselves with the belongings and the possessions we have. Right? I have done this, I am this and that. We need to question this very thing. The very thing I want school students and बच्चों के साथ ही हमें शुरू करना पड़ेगा. And one thing that we want them to inculcate is connection with the environment. I was reading this beautiful book. I am happy to share this, Intertidal by Yuval Nevis. I happened to meet the author at the Jaipur Literature Festival. And simply reading about environment, simply reading about the different plant structures, and he talks about like how he's taken school children to these gardens, forests, and identifying the trees around them. People don't even know the simple trees of people, banyan and other mango trees that are there in Delhi's ecosystem. हमारे को pigeon के अलावा कोई birds भी नहीं पता शायद, because we do not really see them. So I think that simply reading this book, knowing my environment, my respect has gone beyond than dissecting these diagrams of cockroaches in my science books. The only thing we study about insects and animals is in the labs, or as a thing which is to be killed and run away from, but never as a being which has its life of its own and is a part of this part of life. The very Jatak and the Panchatantra stories, they showcase animals as having prudence, wisdom, and human qualities which are far more nuanced than even we have. The other day I was listening to a talk by Devdutt Patnaik, and he said that the Ramayana is not simply a win of good over evil, it's also a lesson in geography. It talks about, I think, 125 plant species, 30 mammal species, and the entire length that they cover in Dandakaranya and Kishkinda. It takes you for the entire journey of India so that you understand your demography better. So these kind of things are changing the ecosystem, and when children start listening to them, they feel connected, they will think twice before spitting on the walls they're walking next to. The second thing, I ask you another question. What is this? I deliberately carry with me, I'm not sure.
Water.
Water? Yes? If a poet was to look at this water, what would they say perhaps? Any idea? A poet from the lands of this water. Or an artist perhaps. Or a politician. How would they?
Space of the ocean.
Yeah.
Elixir to quench thirst.
Elixir to quench thirst. So very poetic lens, right? So poet might look at it in an artist. Politician would say ये हरियाणा के border पे आ रहा है तो थोड़ा मेरा है, थोड़ा पंजाब का है.
If you give me vote, I'll give you vote.
Exactly. Right. So which means that this object is not having identity of its own, it's what you label it and how you construct it is basically matters. If I am a religious preacher, people think I'm a religious preacher and ask if this is something which is sent by the gods, worship this. If I have influential following, you might definitely even put up a tika and start worshipping this, right? And that's what I want to come next. The role of the religious preachers. If we want a shortcut solution to this gigantic problem, we want people like religious leaders to step into the solutions. Read about Bishnoi community? Anyone?
Yeah.
The Bishnoi community is that one is in Rajasthan. They have decades and centuries long tradition of how ecosystem and how they have infused life into these trees, animals and everything. There are women who breastfeed the orphan fawns. And I saw that picture also. That was of course an artist's rendition. And I think it was a real picture. I'm like forgetting on that. But if you go and read about the community, how religion had even made them slay in their life. There were around 300 odd people who died back in the 1700s just to protect the forest because they felt that it was the gods which were surviving in the forest. So if we start doing these things, investing some kind of life, religious power into them, maybe going back to the tribal times can help us better results. Every Sunday we go to the church. Can we then start rewarding people perhaps who are doing some conscious things? Or perhaps take an oath in front of the Christ that we can do at least these countable changes in our times. When we go to temples, can we incorporate the concept of Advaita Vedanta, which says that the world is one? When Safe Soil movement was started by Sadhguru, it gathered immense momentum. I think that everyone in this room must have heard about it, and even people listening to live. Can we start this I am mad movement? I am mad is not I am mad, it's like I am making a difference. Let's make it a hashtag, like I'm making a difference by hashtag doing a small thing. And let's all the religious preachers perhaps retag, repost and make this a new Me Too movement perhaps. Think that this is the power that religion can still have. It can still move people. Mahakumbh had 50 crore odd people, 50 to 60, of course the numbers may be bloated beyond the actual sites, but it is there. Now I come to another thing of climate capitalism. We are making, there is a class divided tackling with every problem, and that is with air pollution too. The rich can survive by simply maybe installing an air purifier, but who talks about the very cost of even making up that air purifier? What about the carbon dioxide and the carbon emissions in that production? No one cares. We think that government promotes EV, but EV causes twice like I read it in one of the report that production of EV causes twice the amount of carbon emissions. So how green is the 20, 30, 50% renewable energy goal? No one questions these things. So there is double side things to multiple things, multiple sides to things, and there is a social class divide. Poor people survive on this thing, but they are not simply aware of it. Why? I'll quote a statistic. The recent health threat was coronavirus epidemic. According to the numbers which were published on the website of National Health and Family Welfare, 5 lakh people died because of COVID. Very contained number, very large. I'm not like going into why or less or something. Like kind of another parallel report I read was by British Medical Journal. Now thinking that's the foreign researcher, foreign country who tries to demonize us, they quoted that in 2023 November, overall 21 lakh deaths are caused in India annually because of air pollution. Even if we suspect a bias, smell a bias in this reporting or anywhere, at least we can suspect it thrice the amount of deaths than the COVID epidemic causing because of air pollution. No one calls. No one talks about it. Why? Maybe because media has other debates to carry forward too, because it is biased. Maybe the government has the answers, but I think it has its own capitalistic agendas to foster first, the pockets to fill first. And also the next thing that it has in mind is that gradual inclinations towards something, they never cause our attention. COVID was dramatic, air pollution to शायद 80 से 70 साल जी लूँगी मैं, that's it. That's the max thing. So we need to talk about these things and bring this data to the forefront. And the last thing I would address is the social status. How do we define status? कोई upper middle class कैसे बनता है? If I own maybe a vehicle, a personal car, and the largest cause of air pollution we all agree is also vehicular pollution. 7 lakh, more than 7 lakh new vehicles were registered in Delhi last year. Why? Because we want to drive it out. Personally, we want to have a status show, yaar. So if you want to reduce air pollution, we need to ensure that social status is not demarcated by possessions. I can simply take a metro and come to this hall perhaps. So this is the mindset change we say we want. when people start thinking and making part of their daily life this kind of a discourse. And that is where the very cause of this imbalance can be perhaps addressed. We need to start this madness, this new hashtag, I'm mad. Maybe it can be as small as today, in this new like watches we wear, we count the steps, right? Maybe the scientists here or the people who are researching can include some kind of a widget which says that by walking 1500 steps, I save maybe this amount of carbon emission to not be caused. And then I can get a reward if I hit a particular target. So reward the behavior because people are run after the rewards. थोड़ा सा discount मिलता है हम चले जाते हैं, right? So these are the things I as a psychologist presume that in the larger ecosystem, if it's inflated, perhaps we can envision a green society. So with this I submit. Thank you. Any questions or have you all report?
Yeah, number of questions because I think it is one of the most important things. Just this psychological source of air pollution.
Definitely.
Right? No one talks about that. Right? Probably, I think that may be even the biggest cause, the psychological cause of it. And I think you are right in that education plays a very important role.
Indeed.
My personal stance on this is that I have just decided not to have any children, right?
Definitely.
Because I just don't. Even if I did, I don't think sending them to school really would give them such an education as you point out. But for us as adults, right, who have undergone education and who mostly have been educated in the Western style of education, right, how do we actually make this shift? Because it is one thing to read about it, and sometimes we are in that poetic state of mind.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we are feeling particularly patriotic, it seems that we've got this Panchatantra, so maybe we should be proud about that. But as a lifestyle, and not just to post pictures on Instagram about it, actually, sincerely, how do we make that shift? When it is actually a part of us now. Because I think it is almost impossible. Because I can read about it when I come across people who have incorporated this, it seems very nice. But I can't imagine how I will do that. I don't know.
True that. I think that another part of this problem is because habit change is because it's very pleasurable and it's very difficult because हमको लगता है हम अकेले होके कैसे इस problem से we can deal with it. I think that what we need is mass awareness because I often even believe that air pollution problem is similar to mental health. No one talks about it. That's why it's very hushed tones that we speak about it. I think that the way we are talking at Red House about air pollution, perhaps hold more of such conferences in larger grounds. We need more activism towards that. We need more people like you to go and spread voices. Like I, for one, with a community that I'm leading, Skilled Empower India Foundation, where I lead. Every Sunday we meet for 2 hours and we raise issues that really matter. Then we go and ask people to type about what you've studied and start clamoring about it. The hashtag that we're promoting is not simply कि आपको Instagram पे post डाल के खत्म करना है. We have to make a part of it. Then we need to start rewarding it, perhaps in some perspective that we can like the widget thing, which I just thought on the top of my head. How we can reward it, but start talking and start normalizing कि ये concern है. क्योंकि deep penetration, people are not even caring to talk about it. We only talk about it when it's the time of November, perhaps, and when it comes to the front page. Otherwise, climate issues are always on the 5th page or the last page when the editorial somehow some brave journalist really picks it up. So I think that's the issue, that we need to raise awareness more about it, start talking.
Any questions from the audience?
Beyond the urgent appearance of the need of pollution per se, like let's say when there is like November, so then everything is at peak, then we are more concerned about it. But beyond that, what do you think, what are the other factors psychologically in humans that is not letting them pursue the awareness towards pollution?
I think the one thing that I stated, I think I'll try to elaborate upon it, is not the urgency of the situation. In the sense, like air pollution causes gradual decline in health, whereas coronavirus epidemic was dramatic. It just erupted out of nowhere. We had no kind of immunity to that, but air pollution has been ongoing, it's very enduring and it stays with you. So it never really comes to our surface level. It's like an insidious disease.
That exactly is my question. My question is, why do you think people are not beyond that cause, beyond that gradual thing, an urgency thing, what are the other factors, possible factors?
I think again that we're not really appraised. Like our perception is trained to notice the things we are taught to notice. Just like the education system, when we look at a cockroach perhaps, the first instinct is to kill it off. Because that's what we are taught to do. We are never really respected that this is also a life form which can be let go of. So when the alternate perception doesn't exist, the only automatic perception is that kuch hai hi nahi, wear a mask and move on. So it's like it doesn't exist in our dictionary at any time. I think that is where the point of awareness is the aapki perception at least alter hoti jaye. And that is the process orientation that psychologists look at it. This is a process. It's not like one pinpointed factor. Right? It's a very interesting fact that I think it's very off, but what's the symbol of Swachh Bharat? The glasses. Swachh on one lens and Bharat on the other. जहाँ स्वच्छता में भारत नहीं है, जहाँ भारत है वहाँ स्वच्छ नहीं है. Still, it raised the awareness, but it did not clamor. Why did the movement die out? Read about it, and perhaps we can have another discussion. Like why do movements die out? Alternate perception do not bring up because awareness. Alternate perceptions को sustenance is not there. Smoking is sustained because it's there in every part of me. It's there in the media. But for alternative discourse, कोई sustenance structures ही नहीं है हमारे पास. There is no one body that's collectively talking it throughout the year about it. So alternate perceptions won't develop otherwise.
So now that we are talking about psychological aspects of it, so I'm just getting a lot of questions.
For sure. I would love to. I think take maybe the time might be there for the other panels.
Maybe a couple more questions because it's an interesting thing.
Sure, I'm happy to take otherwise.
It's because it's an important one. This one.
Sure.
Yeah. So my question is, so psychologically, like, one second, I just
Sure.
lost
I
the
think there
train
was
of
another
thought.
question at the last. I'll come back.
Yeah, cool.
There another question here? Nothing? Okay.
I had a couple, so which I'm also now suddenly blanking. Wait. Yeah. So the one problem I find is that, which I have experienced many times myself, is that whenever I am in that kind of mode, when I feel one with nature, one with humanity, and it is a very poetic, beautiful existence, and it motivates me to keep living, right? Not to commit suicide. So.
Exactly.
Then is when I feel least serious about solving anything, right? When it is actually when I am in that kind of very depressive and anxious mood, that is when I start to think about organizing conferences.
Definitely.
When I am in that mood which you talk about, that is the funny thing. I don't care about it then.
I get you. So I think that what you're targeting is how the very movement needs to be driven. Should it be like oneness with the environment, or should it be like fear driven and it drives that kind of emotion? Because when we see that this is a threat, I'm more likely to take an action rather than maybe an alternative path.
Yeah, because it's a thing like because see we want to it seems to me like we want to develop or we want to incorporate the philosophy of the hippies, right?
Yeah.
And the problem with the hippie movement is that although it is very poetic, you can't really point at anything which is wrong in it. It's still not serious enough to actually do anything.
True.
Right, and as soon as you start doing the actual serious things, then you start thinking about profits and legal frameworks and policy, and then you suddenly all of this quite beautiful poetry, it loses. You lose it completely because there's so much other important things. You will write proposals for grants and all of that. So where will you find the time for this?
I think that's so true. Like we need to the way we design and maybe drive the kind of awareness plans. It not simply should be like art posters and all and conferences, but it should be targeted at particular point in time. Maybe we can raise an awareness which targets a particular policy of the government, a particular part of it. Perhaps like this thing that widget डालो आपने उसके अंदर, we can maybe target one particular company and tell them कि start researching that how we can incorporate in the behavioralistic change via these watches we wear, and I'm constantly having a watch at it. Many studies have shown that simply being shown that AQI is a problem, people start thinking about it. So make it imminent. Like fear factor is being driven, and then I'm more likely to drive out the issues out of it. So I think that more the way we drive it out towards the end point, we need to really map the entire journey of it. I think that would be good.
Second question is also now that I'm thinking about what would be other reasons for people not caring much. Uh, is it also that people are already like, for example, I'm just taking a basic example.
Yeah.
Like I'm so much stressed about my job or my education or like things at family, like XYZ reasons, right?
Yeah.
And then all of these things are already so much to deal with, so why would I care about pollution?
Definitely, like it consumes so much of head stress already that there is no space for अब मैं environment की भी चिंता करने लग जाऊँ.
हाँ, exactly.
So that is, I think, the very again like on a side note, the Gen Z population is said to be the most anxious because they have everything to worry about. Since the time we have picked up the books, the deforestation part has been a part of our every exam and every semester perhaps. So you're rightly pointing out, and again, it's like job stress क्यों हो रहा है, कहाँ से आ रहा है? Of course, they have multiple factors, but try to interconnect these issues. Like, can we draw a link towards how my stress and anxiety is caused by loneliness? And loneliness is caused because of the structure that we are having. Loneliness is caused high times in the times of these winter times in many kind of Nordic countries also, because people are not able to step out of their homes. When there is air pollution, you can't move out of your homes because you want to protect your lungs, right? So this is how we need to drive it. Like connect every issue and every strand to this larger cause. It is the communication that needs to be channelized, the advertisement, the way we frame the messages and all. So this is how I think my humble take on that would be.
Thank you.
Yeah. Please.
I seem to like to have an opinion on what
Yeah.
you have mentioned, or an idea you can call it.
Definitely, it's welcome.
Maybe I think the things that we in general strive for, especially in India, are they have a high or a entry barrier. Everybody wants to go to an IIT or an IIM, which is even harder. So why not make this a movement and have an entry barrier which is tough to just enter into, right? Maybe people would strive, right?
Okay.
To come to this discussion, one needs to step at least, have a 10,000 steps, or
Perhaps.
especially take a metro, otherwise no entry.
That's definitely idea Arjun we can think about. I think from behavioral scientific lens of it, I think I won't term it, maybe we can rephrase it in the way that you need to do something to make a clamor about it. Once we pay the price, we realize the pleasure of it. It's only after we crack an IIT exam, that J exam, and landing itself in a college, we make it really fruitful, right?
Yeah.
So what you are coming from is like the pain of payment that we need to incorporate.
Exactly, because the pain itself has caused too much to exist. So equal amount of pain, equal amount of value should be taken back, and that need to be paid with pain itself.
Maybe, yeah, definitely. We can think about how exciting this proposition can be, because I, for one, suspect that climate change is so less talked about, that even if we attach a payment or perhaps a pain part of it, or make it the process even more dreary, then it might just like limit the very
Like
thing
challenge
of it.
people.
The challenge. What we need is like a movement that drives you from your home. That's like a safe soul movement. It just drove people by publishing insights, by making their mood. So that movement was again channelized. It wasn't just like haywire, because like hippie movement might have just fizzled out because it was more art and not having an end point. Perhaps we need a mapped procedure to target that. Maybe we can definitely experiment it on how we can creatively incorporate in daily life, and that's what my next agenda shall be. Ki delve deeper into this behavioral insights. When you're going back home, why not even start today? You're going back home, right? Why not walk some steps deliberately?
Yeah.
And hashtag put it, I'm mad. Let's start today. Again, it's like how many of us are over here, and those who are listening live. Let's do one thing and hashtag live, hashtag mad. It's not like हमें वृक्षारोपण जैसा नहीं चाहिए कि आप एक दिन जाके आप वृक्षारोपण करके आके सो गए कि मेरा फोटोग्राफ हो गई एंड एवरीथिंग. नहीं चाहिए. Earth hours नहीं चाहिए. We need it every day, each day. I think that's what we clamor for. Right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
I have an interesting story on that. So